Welcome back. Welcome, Kosha Joubert. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas and Elizabeth. It's good to be here.
Great to see
It's
you.
good to see you.
Mm.
Yeah, continuing from where Anagama just brought us to a work that I find is tremendously significant for this time. Kosha Joubert is the CEO of a project that's called the Pocket Project, initiated by Thomas Hübel. And it is one of the known work about collective trauma. And what I find so to the point, to the degree that I am aware of the Pocket Project and I know the Pocket Project, that it holds something that is deeply aware of the deep influence that individual and collective trauma, also through the generations, has in our culture. But it is at the same time deeply grounded in a different dimension. And the way I at least translate the word pocket in this name of Pocket Project, that Kosha, please correct me if I misunderstand this, that you're creating pockets of connection where people, groups who are part of the trauma, who are rooted in the trauma, maybe colonial trauma, gender trauma, war trauma, as we are experiencing right now, people who are connected to their ancestors, to their presence in this, but they're also connected to something else, are able to hold through this double connection something that unleashes a healing power. And welcome, Kosha, that you join us with this work. And I don't want to say too much here. Since a couple of years, you are the CEO of the Pocket Project, and you're doing tremendous work in different regions of the world. And unfortunately, what we're experiencing right now with this war is unleashing new and old trauma. And with this, I would like to hand over to you for this hour to lead us into the work that you're doing.
Into global social witnessing, which is a particular practice in this work.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Very happy to be here. And thank you to all of you for being here and joining us in this deep work. And I really want to thank you, Elizabeth and Thomas and the whole team, for setting up this event at this time, because I also feel that in terms of the war in the Ukraine, we're arriving at a point where it's becoming more of an everyday occurrence. I think it's actually a great timing to bring it back center stage and provide the space for us to connect to it more deeply. So thank you, and thank you everyone for offering your time to this. And yeah, as you said, the Pocket Project, it's a bit of a strange name. Yeah, and it's about, before this, I was working for 30 years in the areas of building intentional communities as a healing biotopes in the world, really believing quite a lot in the bottom-up pathway towards transformational change. And then leading the global Eco-Village network for 15 years. And in that, I became more and more aware how the remnants of trauma, for instance, the remnants of the trauma of colonialism, enslavement, racism, are like sand in the system of our collaboration on a global level, our ability to fully feel and be together. And I decided that after these years, that this is the time for me to look directly at the sand in the system. The sand that, because we know the solutions, we know what is needed, but we seem unable as humanity to implement what we know. So, yeah, and trauma are like, shows itself in pockets of unaware energy. So we speak about pockets of trauma, pockets of unconscious that inhabit our world, inhabit our bodies, inhabit our relationships, yet we don't see them. We only see the symptoms they cause. And as you say, Thomas, we are creating pockets of healing, pockets of aware communities that are able to meet pockets of unconsciousness. And with our loving presence, awaken them back and bring them back into life. So that's the movement. And today we would like to bring a particular practice here, as Elizabeth said, the practice of global social witnessing. Yeah, and you will all be very active participants. So I invite you to really bring your instruments, which will be your body, your emotions, your mind, your soul, fully present into the space. That's the one main instrument. And the other instrument we're going to be using is our group field. So, yeah, I've actually shifted to gallery view. And at one point, I'll invite you all to shift to gallery view so we can really work as a collective here. Yeah, and we speak of global social witnessing as our capacity to mindfully attend to global events from an embodied awareness. So we create an inner space that mirrors and brings compassion to outer events. So in this session, we're going to bring the situation in the Ukraine present, and we're going to be refining our internal sense perception. So really becoming very precise in witnessing the responses in our bodies to what is happening, to what reaches us from the Ukraine or from Ukraine, but also how our nervous systems respond, how our emotions respond. And we find that as we attend to world events, we actually meet the edge of the world in us. So our bodies are like open, resonating nervous systems up to the point where we hit parts in ourselves that are overwhelmed, traumatized, numb, hyperactivation, where hyperactivation is triggered. And in that moment, we can, our feeling, our witnessing capacity stops. And really, our practice is about becoming very precise with that edge in our souls, in our own instrument. And also honoring that this instrument has grown through hundreds of thousands of years of evolution and is deeply embedded into a state of interbeing with the world, with other nervous systems, and that each of us has a deep effect on the world. So coming from that, we will take time to fine-tune to ourselves. Notice how our collective field here allows for a space of co-regulation, where none of us are facing the events alone, or even the numb spaces in ourselves alone, but we are coming together as a space of co-regulation, a group field. And as we meet the numb and activated place in ourselves with more regulation, co-regulation, compassion, more flow can start to return. And each of us can become a more active witness, processing the news not only through our minds, but truly through our bodies and our emotions as well. When something is fully seen and felt, it affects the event. So each of us becomes like a resonance body in the world, an alive membrane. Yeah, and together what we will be doing, and some of this might sound a bit abstract now, but we will actually practice this, so you will have a felt experience of this. So together we are strengthening our global immune system, which Thomas Hübl defines as the power of humanity to have an internal representation of our outer reality that enables us to respond to the needs and the actions required so that we can start taking care of the moment-to-moment life experiences. And we will start with an attunement. I'll say a few words about the Ukraine or about Ukraine, and this will offer you a chance to just relate maybe more deeply to the news that you've also been connecting to. And then we will have a space of sharing where each of you is invited to share how it feels, how this instrument of yours, this incredible, complex instrument of your body, your nervous system, your emotions, actually responds. Good. So I invite you to close your eyes. We will start by fine-tuning our instruments. And I'm sure, we have a group here of very experienced people, and you've already, probably many of you already been here a little while. So we're bringing all of that wisdom and experience and presence that has already been building here into this group field. And just taking a moment to notice how your body is here now. And in a way, we're just noticing the state of our instrument today. What is alive in us? How freely is my breath allowed to run right now? Where might it be somewhat constricted? And fine-tuning our instrument is not about pointing fingers at ourselves and saying this is right, this is wrong, this is better, but really turning first our witnessing capacity towards ourselves, our compassionate witnessing capacity, and embracing what is. Embracing the places in our body where there might be flow and openness. Where we might feel grounding. A deep realization in our bodies that we are part of this planet. We are embedded, deeply embedded in the collective field of humanity. We are deeply embedded in this online group field. This body is not separate from your bodies. You being here builds the container in which my body is sensing and feeling. And just noticing in my body also maybe where there are places of contraction. Maybe I can soften my self-perception towards those places. Bringing a wave of care, being with, witnessing without judgment, without a pressure to change. Embracing. And maybe noticing the parts where we feel resilient, able to meet the world, able to meet Ukraine, the pain, the war, and also the parts in us that might feel overwhelmed, that we can embrace both those aspects. Yeah, and also noticing our emotions right now. Our heartfulness. And bringing our awareness of our emotions online. And again, in this witnessing presence, we meet what is, so we might be meeting a layer of numbness, of overwhelm, tendency to turn away. We might be meeting grief, despair, anger, fear, anxiety. And just see whether we can bring that strand of awareness of our body and awareness of our emotions online, and keep it online in our awareness while we also open to our mind. Maybe we've been hearing a lot. Some of us might be in Ukraine now, some of us might be from Ukraine, some of us might be elsewhere in the world. And our minds might be very activated, very busy, or more spacious. Yeah, wonderful. And from there, we might slowly open our eyes again in your rhythm, whatever. Some of you might not have closed your eyes, which is also perfect. And I would love us to shift to the gallery view if we can. And really notice as we do that whether we go away from ourselves. So just trying to keep, not trying, but just seeing how much we can keep a presence of our bodies, our emotions, our mind online. If you can and feel comfortable, it would be great if you could turn on your videos so we can not just meet our names, but also see each other if possible. Yeah, and just taking a moment of allowing our nervous systems in a way to relate more deeply. Because a lot of numbness or overwhelm is created where we try to cope with too much intensity in too small a vessel. And that is what happened to many of us as children when we didn't have adults that really could help us co-regulate the intensity of some of the experiences that we went through. That is the cause of a lot of energies that then become encapsulated in trauma and stay with us instead of being fully processed. So when we actually start building a more coherent we field, it helps us to meet the world. We were never meant to meet the world alone. And that's very much embodied in the saying from South Africa, Ubuntu, I am because you are. It's very much embodied in the wisdom of a lot of indigenous practices around feeling and being with each other, the world, the healing processes. And in the Western world, we've often moved towards more individualization. So just here and now allowing, and we'll do a very specific practice for a few minutes, just inviting you to look at someone on the screen. So you can choose anyone. Just choose one person to start off with. And just bringing yourself present and feeling into that person. And right now, that person is also feeling into someone, right? So you're presencing a nervous system, this very specific, beautiful, incredible depth of a human being that is also presencing someone else. And you can notice what a human nervous system that is focusing on witnessing feels like. And not just a human nervous system, but this very specific human person. Yeah, and then I invite you to shift your awareness and to go to another person. And again, maybe just take also a moment again to make sure that you're connected to your own body, your emotions, your nervous system. I feel me, feeling you. Yeah, and then we open up our awareness. And we're just trying this out today. Like, how does it feel when you open your awareness more and you feel the group presence now? And see, there might be a layer in your nervous system where you can become aware of how a group field feels that is tuned to listening. Yeah, so these are our tools, our instruments, you could say, like this beautiful instrument here, my body, emotions, mind. But also we have our group field and the coherence in our field. And of course, this is something that we can develop and build over time. So now I would invite you to stay as much as possible present with yourself. On a second level, also the group field. As we turn our witnessing presence towards Ukraine. And the realization that the war in the Ukraine has been going on for 3 months. Maybe just allow that to land. The war in Ukraine has been going on for 3 months. The invasion of Putin's army into Ukraine has been going on for 3 months. And there have been many war crimes against Ukrainian people. Many of us in the world and many Ukrainians in other places have been watching with horror, with shock. Yeah, and pockets of individual, ancestral, collective trauma in us, in our cultural fields, in our countries, to do with wars and totalitarian abuse of power have been touched, activated. So there's been a lot of activation. And as Otto Scharmer shared in one of his blog posts, the war showed a lot of Putin's blind spots. Putin and the Russian army were taken by surprise through the courage and the resolve of the Ukrainian people. Zelensky's courageous leadership, the collaboration that happened within the Ukraine to come to stand up for their own collective defense, protection. And it's been very touching and inspiring for many to witness. And also often, I think, heartbreaking to see the refugee streams, to feel the openness of neighboring countries to welcome refugees, but also the way that the Ukrainians in many ways have been very alone in meeting the invasion. Yeah, and the war has also shown the blind spots in the West, the lack of a timely and conscious healing process in the West around the continuing open wounds of the Second World War, of the continuing East-West divide, the enemy projection onto Russia, a lack of timely response. Yeah, and as was in the description of the event today, honoring the unique culture of Ukraine, that their sovereignty and freedom are important enough for them to die for. That we see an expression of a new ideal of male and female that is both fierce and caring. Yeah, and yet the war is ongoing. Mariupol has been taken. Mass graves are being uncovered. And coming from all that back into our space here, just noticing again how much space is there in my instrument for this to land on. You know, and where the edge of the world is in us is like a teacher. It shows us where there is something in us to look at. Yeah, so can we notice where there might be contraction, numbness, fear in us? Where does this land in us? What is alive in our bodies, our emotions, and our minds as we meet? All this. Yeah, and as I said before, it's not about changing it, it's about bringing our witnessing capacity to these edges in us. So as we bring our attention to the edge, we grow the resonance field of our body and our collective body with the actuality of the war, of the situation for the people of Ukraine. And we would like to open a space here for anyone to share. Might take a bit of courage. We invite you to share as much as possible from this embodiment, so to share from your body, from your emotions, and also from your mind. But we know how often we tend to allow the world's news or the information to reach us mentally and then respond mentally. And so what we're practicing here is to allow it to meet us fully, as fully embodied human beings, and to respond from that full embodiment. Yeah, and each person who shares will allow us to see a part of ourselves. And also, as we sense into the person who's sharing, we can also provide a bigger space of witnessing awareness, of co-regulation with that person, and grow our collective field of global social witnessing. So you can simply unmute, and I see Lisbeth that you have unmuted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What comes for me so deeply is how much I leave it to others. Like the difference between the Second World War, when it was all far, far away, and this war, which comes so close, and still I want to leave it to others. The politician who has to make it good, the people who help there, and it's to make this position to really get involved into this is a big step.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Lisbeth. And you portray so beautifully exactly, this that you're speaking for all of us. I think we can all recognize what you speak to, that a part of us would love to leave this to others. And I wonder whether I could ask you just a bit more. Would that be okay? Just a bit more information about
Well,
how,
the
how it
center
shows up in you. Yeah.
no, the center point is fear. This was what came up when we were close. Is once we had this change in weather that there was amazing heat, and then suddenly a day later there was a storm, and it's for the first time I felt, well, we are so used to being taken care of, and that everything is within safe lines. And then suddenly I felt that there can be a position which is actually unsafe. And that especially in the West, we don't know this. We have no idea about that. And also that I now feel how much I want to keep it in the safe. You never, and how brave it is for the Ukrainian people to really cross that border, to really go in there. So it's, yeah.
And when you feel the fear, can you allow just a bit of that fear to be here now?
Well, it is here now.
Touch it? Yeah, great. And where do you feel it in your body?
Well, it started, of course, here when you go out of your mind and you go into your body, but it's mainly in my mind, the fear.
Ah. Yeah, and
I
let's
think
see if you
this
allow.
whole area.
Yeah, that's really interesting when you say the fear is mainly in my mind.
Yeah, because that's where I live.
Because that is where I live. The fear is mainly in my mind because that is where I live. Yeah. Yeah, when we take the fear into our mind, it may be that our thoughts become quite fast. And I wonder, when you allow the fear to become more grounded in your body, is that possible?
Yes.
And where would you feel it in your body?
Yeah, it can be everywhere. The heat going to the body.
A heat going through your body. Yeah,
But
let's
the real
just
fear, like I felt it when this storm was coming, that was different. I think it's in the stomach or somewhere. It's different. I
the
don't know.
real fear.
Yeah,
That's an
it's in the stomach.
interesting sentence. The real fear in the stomach. And I would love to just give that some space in between us, that we here in the space just notice whether we can connect to the fear, like resonate with the fear that is alive in your stomach. And we may find a resonance. You know, when we really resonate with each other, we might find that we feel it in some way in our own bodies. It's part of having mirror neurons as human beings, is that we are like resonance instruments. And through that, we may provide you with a bigger resonance space to help you feel it and ground it more. How does that feel, Lisbeth?
I think the essence of fear is panic, this feeling, this feeling of wanting to go out.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's very good that we all have like a healthy regulation, that we don't need to go too far into it, but just to a level that is healthy for our nervous systems. And what you are bringing supports, you know, probably a capacity to resonate with an experience that many Ukrainians are experiencing at this time. Existential fear and panic.
And this numbness, like people who are in the metro, you know, these people who sit there for weeks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lisbeth. Thank you so much for your vulnerability and your willingness to go deep with us. Is it okay if we continue? Great, and we don't leave you. We take this with us, your voice. Thank you. And anyone else who would, thank you so much for sharing. It's an act of generosity, Lisbeth. Thank you. Anyone else who's willing to share? It can be small or big, about an area of numbness or intense feeling. And you can simply unmute or also raise your hand. Yeah, and while we simply allow the next voice to appear, there's no rush.
Yes, your question, Kosha, where can we live? By this experience, I recognize I or we can live in this bigger field. There is a great resonance, and the feel I'm more at home.
Yeah, maybe we can again just allow for you, Gila. Is that correct, the pronunciation, Gila?
Yes.
Great. To just become a bit more precise. So this is a great, like, I feel more at home in the bigger field. And just become a bit more precise about.
Yes, I try.
Mm-hmm.
There is a great feel in my body, in the middle of my body.
A great.
And at the same time, I feel a brightness, very bright, and my ears are very open. And there is a possibility to share more. But the feeling is in the middle of my body and in the brightness with you all. And the people in the metro in the Ukraine.
And when you said the feeling in the middle of your body, did you say fear? Was that the word you used?
No, there is no fear. There is presence.
Mm-hmm.
There is awareness. There is concentration.
Mm-hmm.
From that point, it goes in the wideness and openness.
Great. Yeah, thank you. And maybe part of what you're bringing here is also this grounding through our bodies, like this real focus within our bodies, and at the same time, the capacity to hold this connection to the bigger field. Yeah. Thank you, Gila. Thank you. Alan.
What strikes me and what I've been feeling, as you said, this has been going on now for 3 months, is it frightens me more as it goes on and on that people do or are getting used to it. At first it's horrible. There's a war in Ukraine. Russians have invaded. There's a war. And for me, it's in my every day. It's in my mind. Every meal I eat, I eat a lot of barley, and I think of the food that's not available. I think but as humanity, like there comes a limit as to how long it can stay at the front of the stage, and as it gets to not the front of the stage, then what happens? And then I hear from our government, all of the billions of dollars are going for arms, And it frightens me and makes me suspicious as to why this goes on, of where that money's going for arms. And also from the beginning, I've wanted to have the whole world send their best negotiators, the best negotiators of every country to be on the stage instead of the latest weapons. I recognize the need for the defense, but the latest weapons, and this is permission to develop more weapons, and the negotiations, there's a meeting and then it didn't go anywhere. And because there are master negotiators in the world. So it's almost like, as you had said, Kosha, the answers to this are available. There are negotiation possibilities and experts in the whole human race that could be at a table, or we could be spending $1 billion to bring them all together. And so I liked what you said earlier as the first of what's the saying, what makes this not be happening? Like, it's almost like the resolution is somewhere. It just needs to precipitate. And that whirls in me, or is what percolates in me. And also the gentleman today who said the Kremlin is filled with ghosts. That kind of haunted me too. And the life force that was demonstrated in when the panel talked about the future of Ukraine, the ghosts versus the rebuilding, that's at play. That affects me deep in my core. The existential aspect of this war.
Yeah, and I think, that's great. Thank you so much, Ellen. And, where do we place our attention? Where do we allow our resources to flow to? Yeah, and I wonder, as you shared about the world growing numb over time, I wonder whether it might be possible to notice the places in us that wish to go numb. Because
that's a powerful thought, Kosha, and I think unfortunately we're going to have to wrap up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good. So do I have until the hour or before?
No, it's 45 minutes. So
oh, sorry, I got that wrong. Good. I will wrap up here. My apologies to everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
The wrap up
You're not
will
the
be
only one.
slightly faster than anticipated. I'll just need 2 more minutes to complete. So, yeah, exactly. So really, as we notice that in the world, where is that edge in ourselves, and becoming kind and generous and encompassing to that place in ourselves where we might start to become numb as the war goes on and turn away. And where do we do that to other places in the world? Yeah, and this was just the beginning of, this practice that we call global social witnessing. I want to invite you, if you're interested in knowing more about it, I'll just put the in the chat. I don't think I have the chat available here, do I? No, so maybe we can do it afterwards. I somehow don't seem to have a chat available. So just want to invite you to go to pocketproject.org, and we offer monthly global social witnessing events. So we've already had 3 events about focusing on Ukraine, and we'll have another one next month. This month we'll have an event focusing on the growth of, or the continuation of anti-Semitism. And I also want to just let you know of another opportunity, which is that we have an upcoming trauma-informed leadership course, which starts on Tuesday. And we're combining that course with a Ukraine aid project, as we're calling it. I'm not sure the name is the perfect name, but we have around 100 Ukrainians, 95% of them in the Ukraine at the moment, that will be participating in that course. So we're also translating the course to Ukrainian. And these are a lot of leaders in the fields of psychology, therapy, leaders of NGOs, in education, leading refugee efforts. And we're going to continue offering both psychological and therapeutic support into that network, and also mentoring for the rebuilding in Ukraine, but also through that network, bringing psychologists and therapists from the Ukraine who are currently not able to earn a living in Ukraine to actually become able to offer their support to Ukrainian refugees elsewhere. Yeah, so just if you want to support that or learn more about it, the building of a trauma-informed Ukraine rebuilding will also be happening through that platform. And we're staying in close collaboration with Evolve and this platform. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you,
Kosha.
Kosha.
Everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your work.
Now we'll take just a couple minute break, and we'll come back for something. It's a switch in our schedule. One meditation is going to be next, and at 7 we'll have Rami Abraham Ifal and bearing witness. So
Now we have one meditation.
in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you.